I think right now it's I'll know that answer before we get to Daytona. I don't really have a clear answer on that right now. So I think as we get to Daytona, I know 100% that we'll have a direction, because I'm not going to start the season without knowing that direction, just because of the fact that there's just a lot of layers to unfold and really go through and evaluate and so we'll see. I think it could go either way at this particular point.
How do you feel about the changes they're making to the rear flip on the car?
Yeah, I think when you look at the data and you look at the crash videos and you look at everything that happens, I think there's just I think that part obviously looks better, but we have a lot of work to do on the front, and a lot to work to do with a lot of the drivers and things inside their own cars too. And I think that goes back to delivering the information that needs to be delivered to the drivers and the teams and drivers. Also being proactive in making sure that they participate in the meetings and the things that they need to understand where they are, because it's important. The car is still going to not crash like the old one. They're still going to be harder hits, so it's much more important to have the inside of your car right. And I think one thing that we've learned over the last 4 months is there's a large majority of the guys driving them that have no clue why they sit in the seats that they sit in and do the things that they do. So, I think the driver responsibility has to go up, and guys understanding how they wound up where they were. And I think the teams have a responsibility to make sure that they're not giving the guys seats and making them sit in seats and making sure all that stuff is right is important from all sides, drivers, teams. But NASCAR's got a lot of information, and I think it's important to understand it.
Have you been by the R&D Center to look at it and discuss things with people?
I've been there. I've been to the R&D Center and sat in meetings more times than I probably have in the last 10 years. So that's been good.
That's good.
So yeah. Joey Logano said, when asked about being a leader, because he's won 2 championships now, he said he saw you as the leader in the garage. You're the guy that's got the leadership ability that he feels like is the leader. Do you feel like the leader?
I don't know, Claire. It's kind of evolved into that over the last little bit. But I just like working with my fellow drivers and understanding who they are and what they're doing, and Joey has obviously become one of the leaders in the sport. I mean, there's not ever going to be one leader, because there's 36 guys or however many guys, 40 guys that drive these cars consistently, and it takes everybody. It really does take everybody, and I think the more we can all be around each other and be aware of everything that's happening and understand as many things as possible. But Joey doesn't give himself enough credit sometimes, because of the fact that he he has a voice that he uses and participates in a lot of the activities and things that it takes to help us progress forward. So it's been an interesting year, to understand where everything is at, and I'm guilty of it as well, and not participating in doing the things that we need to do, but it's an important time, and that has obviously changed as we went through the second half of the year.
Mm-hmm. As you got into the season and everybody started talking about your winless drought or whatever, that never seemed to bother you. You didn't seem to be a guy who kept track of numbers.
There's not much that bothers me anymore. I'm in that I don't care phase of what everybody else thinks part of my life, and I love what I do, and I love going about my business. But look, I've been on winning streaks, losing streaks, good streaks, bad streaks, whatever streak you want to name. I've been a part of that. So I've had a lot longer losing streaks, so it didn't bother me much.
How did you look at the season overall?
I think our second half of our year was good. The first half, it definitely took some time to understand what we were dealing with, and it evolved, and I think we got pretty close to where we needed to be, and won a couple races and put ourselves in position to win more races. The playoffs didn't go particularly great from really race one. Catching on fire kind of set the tone. Kind of set the tone for the first few weeks, but I think we rebounded and put ourselves in position to win a couple races, and it went fine.
How did you look at the year in total? We had 19 different winners. The next gen car, there was a lot going on. Drivers injured. I mean, how did you look at this season, just as an overall being in the middle of all that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think as we obviously didn't enjoy seeing the drivers hurt, and I think that became the main focus as we got towards the end of the year. I think that the multiple winners part of it is, I think that's okay. So I think that the drivers became the drivers' health became the main focus as we work forward.
How's your off season look?
It's been fine. Yeah, it's been fine. We've been racing, so we'll keep racing, and Keelan's got one more race in Italy, and we'll head back for that, and then we'll just start over again and do it all again.
How's he doing over there by himself at such a young age? And I would sort of flip out. I mean, when I went to college, I don't think I was prepared to go to college and live.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So, I actually got to watch him race for the first time. I went over Monday after Phoenix and watched him race the last week. So I think he's definitely matured a little bit since he's been making the trips, and I think it's important to have that culturing aspect of life, to be comfortable to go do things like that anywhere in the world.
Does he get homesick?
We don't ask him that.
And he doesn't pour his heart out to you and tear up and go, "I miss you, Dad."
We've had some moments, but I mean, they're going to have those moments. So
yeah.
He's been a part of those decisions and processes and things as we've gone along the way. So it's during those moments you remind him that that's what he committed to, and so we haven't had many.
He's a good kid. Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, you should see him at home.
I know your agency reps increase. What do you think about, I guess, how do you feel about him getting this opportunity, what he will do, and then I'm also curious on your thoughts on Cole and trying to kind of regroup.
Yeah, I think Ryan creates a lot of his own opportunities. There's only so much that from the management side that you can do. But as we've seen through the years, Ryan creates most of his opportunities and works to help put things together and keep himself relevant and put himself in a position to drive the 41. I hate it for Cole because of the fact that Cole is one of the hardest working people in the garage. Whatever garage he's in, he didn't necessarily, in my opinion, do anything wrong. It was just, as we see so many times, the chemistry of a team is important to the overall success of it, and he just, it didn't all work out. So he's going to go back to the Xfinity Series and win races, and I think we've seen this before, and hopefully, be in a position to have another opportunity. But it's all about the chemistry of the people, and whatever that missing element was, it never got to the point where everybody felt good about it.
Next year is a far way away.
Is it what?
Far ahead.
Next year, as in 2023?
Yeah. Obviously, your contract ends after 2023, so then at some point you have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
When you signed it a couple years ago, that's far away. Gets a year closer.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you start to get to that process, how does that make you look, or is it looking at things on the inside a little bit more, or how an athlete looks at trying to find the right time to go out?
I think for me it's just another it's just it's the same process. It's just, it's just further down the road than it has been in the past. And I think for me, it's, it's an important process to go through correctly. And I won't let it go. I won't let it go past, by the time we start speed weeks, I'll have made a decision on exactly what I want to do. I always think about what's next. I just told you. Yeah.
I'm going to focus on other racing. From a leadership standpoint, is it something else, or is it where do you see?
Right now, it's really about 2023 and focusing on getting to that point, and so like I said, going into Daytona, I'll know what I'm going to do, and I think for me it's always about the process, and you're always looking to evolve and do things. So that's it. I mean, it doesn't ever change. It hasn't ever changed. Whether I drive or don't drive, it's still going to be the same process. You're going to constantly evolve and do things and look at things, whether it's your tennis shoes or your cup ride. It's always going to be what's better, what's next, what's better. But we'll have we're planners, so it'll always have a plan.
So, I know you say you know by speed weeks. Does that mean in your mind you anticipate, and I'm not trying to hold you to a timetable, you anticipate making an announcement by then, and that it would be a formal announcement of what your plans would be, one way or the other, or it's just that you'll know by what you're doing and then anything will come later on?
No, I think it's we're at a point where everybody needs to know what's going on. Yeah, there's too many tentacles to everything that happens. We have whether it's race team, driver, management company, there's just every element of it needs to know, and it's not fair to anybody to have to start the season not knowing. So that's important to all aspects of it.
So there'll be a resolution, determination by that point.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm also curious. You made your Cup debut at 25, which now, if you look around, there aren't as many guys that do that. I think the Phoenix field had about a third of the starting lineup of drivers who had made their debut before they even turned 21. And I'm curious. I would anticipate that the sport's still going to continue to get younger. You probably have more kids making their debuts at 18, 19, 20. What are the things that need to be done, or the support systems for when you're putting somebody young? I know you're working with a couple of young kids with the management program. Hopefully, I'm sure the goal is obviously to get them in that position. But as this becomes more and more likely to happen, and what are the we've seen some struggle, we've seen some get beat down by it, and others rise to the top.
Yeah, well, it's not going to get much younger because of the fact, unless you get into a Kyle Larson.
More people
Yeah.
under 21, so it's not going to get younger than 18, I agree.
Yeah, because you just the trucks and Xfinity cars, you just have to be 18, and as we've gone through Brent Cruz and his situation, there's just, you can get ahead of the game, but there's really nowhere to go once you get to a certain point. So the one thing I've learned with my son, and my mom reminds me all the time, is most of the time males are somewhat immature. And so I think it's important, and I think everybody's different because of the fact that you just have to understand the maturity level of the particular person. So that's something that we take into mind with a lot of Keelan stuff, is just where his maturity level is and what he can take mentally. So I think that's important for for all of them. You know, and then, you know, I think that as you come in young, it's much different than it used to be, because you can't just go practice until, you know, your feet bleed. You know, you have to be in the simulator, and then you just throw them in there. So the process of being competitive on the Cup side it's a multi-year process, you know, to get guys up to speed, as we've seen with, you know, many of the guys that have come in, and so, and you know, I think as you look at the new car, it's difficult, you know, to understand and drive, and you know, it's important to have a team of people around the younger kids, because it's so hard to teach them about money and having the capabilities of, you know, having access to do pretty much anything that you want is, you know, can be dangerous, just because it's you know, when you get here, you have all that, and then all of a sudden you have to have more attention to detail and more focus and more time away, and you know, being a 21-year-old kid is, you know, is really, you've kind of given that part of your life up. So, you know, trying to manage that is hard.
Is it part of, I think you've talked about, or others have talked about, you were talking to some of the younger drivers, and certainly your role as a leader in the garage. Is that any more of a, I won't say duty or role that you feel is important for you?
It's important. I've never realized how important that it is, not only for myself, but for anybody that's been here for a long time, to explain to the young one that you're standing next to, whether you're an engineer, a crew chief, a car chief, you know, how things work and things that they're doing wrong, you need to make them aware. And, you know, I think that the accountability, you know, needs to, you know, that standard needs to be upheld. And, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, it just has to be explained. I think, you know, our guys from the driver standpoint are very good, very knowledgeable, and most of them they just have never known some things, right? And you just have to explain it to them. They're very eager to learn and willing, and we have a great group of young drivers. It's just we have to do a better job of passing that knowledge along.
When did that hit you? Because you have moved into this leadership role.
Yeah.
People have talked about it all day, about Kevin's the go-to guy, but you weren't always that guy.
Yeah,
And
I didn't want to do it. Like, it's you know, it's just not, it's not something that you really even think about, because you get so ingrained into what you're doing that you don't want to think about everybody else, right? And you know, I think when we started having guys hurt this year, it's just necessary. And really, I've gotten to know many of them a lot better than what I had before. And you know, I speak honestly about, you know, having a great group of drivers and young drivers to go forward in the sport. But, you know, delivering that information is important to the knowledge that they have of what we're doing here and understanding it.
Could you see yourself continuing to have a role like a Jeff Burton, for example, when you decide to step away?
I mean, you know, look, I'm open. I'm open for roles. Yeah. No, I'm open for roles. You know, but I think all this is just so new, and so much has changed over the last year in how all this functions and how all this works, and, you know, where I'm at and where things have gone, and it's drastically different, you know, than it was sitting here last year at this time, as far as the way you look at things and the way that we function, as far as a sport and communicate, and but it changed quickly. But it all revolved around, you know, some guys getting hurt.
Do you enjoy this role?
I'm not sure. But I think back and I look at the camaraderie, you know, amongst the guys that were here when I got here, and it's not that way currently. And, you know, we've all sat in a lot of meetings with each other and talked amongst each other and had to focus on some things that you know, none of us wanted to focus on. but it forced us to be around each other. And so that culture is in the world is different than what it was 20 years ago, but it's not what it was when I started, as far as guys hanging out with each other and we don't have to we don't sit at dinners together. We don't have the Coca-Cola racing family where we're all, 15 of us or 12 of us are at a production day for 8 hours a day. And so there's less time for everybody to be together. And I think that really this safety thing has kind of brought everybody together to kind of learn. You're really learning. For me, I've learned a lot about a lot of the guys that I race against that I had no idea. Who would speak up, who wouldn't speak up, who the leaders are going to be, who everybody is in my opinion. And it's also going, if you wind up on this side of the world, it's also very valuable in the fact that you have a much better understanding of who the guys are that are driving the cars.
How do you explain to a young guy, or what's it like when you're back in my day, we practiced till my feet bled. You guys get a simulator for air conditioning. What's that conversation like, and what do you learn and what do they learn from you?
Yeah, I don't think any of them want to hear much about that. I think, a lot of guys just, it's just so different. A lot of these guys come into these teams and they just don't have they haven't been given the opportunity to have an opinion about anything. You don't have an opinion about your suit that you wear. You don't have an opinion about your seat. You don't have it's just, hey, here's what we've got. And most of them have just got in there, and then it's, they don't know about, the economics of the team and the way that it functions and the way that it's structured. And so, I think as we start to realize more and more of these things, it's just really important to help everybody understand how this whole thing works and how it functions. And so, I think that we've started with that on the safety side, and I think that's trickled over into a few other things, and just how we go about it is a constant evolution of where we go, and we'll see how it all progresses.
On the safety side, you've always been one to, wear the helmet curtain and things like that. We still see, even after Jordan Anderson's fire, that, drivers don't necessarily have that same type of protective equipment. Are you on board if NASCAR wanted to mandate all of that stuff, underwear, helmet curtains, all of that?
Well, and that's one place that we've already been. It was mandatory. You couldn't, when we first started all that, you couldn't go on the racetrack without the head sock or the helmet skirt on, and they would bring you back into the garage. And I think a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like when they first made us start wearing the Hans device, and a lot of that stuff just unfortunately we just lost sight of it because it was just okay, right? And then we have some of these instances of those things happening, and so and I'm guilty of it as well. Look, I'd never opened the roof hatch in my car until all this stuff started happening. I'd never tried to get out of the right side of my car. So that accountability level, I think you'll see go up in holding the teams and the drivers, to a higher standard. And I think that the interior guys and the teams and the drivers will know a lot more about their cars and situations. But I think that accountability level obviously needs to go up. And, I think that that's something that we all realize, and I think you'll see going forward.
Could you talk a little bit about the Champions book, what you read, what you received from the person that had won the championship before you, and how much thought you put into what you left for? I guess it would have been Kyle after you, but
I didn't put enough thought into it. I'd do it differently than what I did, but I can't remember what was in there, and I'd never tell you anyway.
I didn't mean exactly. I meant, is it like an encouraging thing? Is it, just congratulatory?
It varies.
You talk smack.
Yeah, it varies.
But it's pretty cool that you do. I mean, it's
It
a
is
nice
cool.
tradition.
It is. It is. It is a good tradition, and I think that a lot of those things. That's one other thing that we don't do well is keep our mouth shut on certain things a lot of times. So everything becomes too much of everybody else's business, and there's just I look at that as kind of sacred to the champs that have been able to write in that book, and hope hope that they just keep it amongst themselves for a long time. But I wish we would keep a lot of things to ourselves. That doesn't happen as much as it should.
Well, nobody's sharing anything.
That's good.
What are you instilling in Keelan? Because you mentioned that these kids come in and they don't really know jack shit about how the world works. So how are you?
No, I think it's impossible. Like it's really, you try to give them as much as you can, but it's just like with Keelan. There's a mental capacity there that has to be reached in order for them to absorb the things that they need to absorb. So, right now with him, he's 10, and you try to expose him to as many things as you can, and hopefully he absorbs as much as possible, and then you address the things that happen in the future, because they're going to happen, right? They're 20, 21, whatever their age is, and they're just going to screw up, and that's just part of what we all did, and it's much more public than it used to be.
And you talked about the camaraderie, right? You were talking about developing that, and you've learned things about certain people in these meetings. When you're a champion like you are, when you've been in the sport since 2000, or in Cup, right, since 2001, how do you find somebody who's kind of at your level of maturity, at your level of experience, at your level of knowledge, intellect, that you can have that kind of conversation with and use as? There's a lot
of really smart ones, and I think there's a lot of really smart people in general in this sport. It's just sometimes all those things there aren't situations that happen that are moments that make you have these conversations and things to talk about like we've had, right? And I think it's a different world that we live in, and things are different. But in the end, this is a pretty small group of guys that we should be able to easily wrap our arms around, and it's not like we're trying to wrap our arms around thousands of people. We're talking 30 guys for the most part that are going to be here year after year.
I mean, is Rodney kind of your most intimate confidant, I would think, because
I think my wife and I have a great relationship too, so it's something that we talk about a lot at home, and everything we do revolves around racing, in some way, shape, or form. So it's something that we constantly talk about and deal with, and same with Rodney. You constantly talk about and deal with it.
So one question: you mentioned your mom. Is she poking you about Keelan and things like that, and his development?
My mom constantly tells me how dumb I was, so I look at some of the situations that we deal with, and she just laughs and says, it's only the beginning. I said, I can't wait. This is just going to be fantastic.